do the clip and do this.
I mean, technically, I touched all of them. Not that part. One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What's this for?
What? Jerome.
Okay, I got the lights on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm not hearing that weird sound from this thing, so.
Do you want to test this one, number 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
Testing. Can you hear me? Got a little test on mic 3.
Yep. Hold on. It takes just 30 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody.
We're live, man. We're live. People, you're
remember last week you had something pulled up over here that made that camera come in. Which one was it?
It's the third camera.
I never pulled anything down. That's how it always is. Although I think.
recall, it's only this channel that matters.
That's what I think.
This all comes into one. So we really shouldn't have anything else pulled up.
I wondered that, but I'd always had those 3 up, so I was worried with my luck if I pull them down, I'll need them. But yeah, I'll pull them all down and then I'll test all of mine to make sure they all work with that one too.
I don't know if Rebecca should be over there
Yeah, that's not touching.
where he was sitting.
Oh, God, you're right. Get out of there. Get out of there. Let's go wash our hands.
I'm a walking cesspool.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. See what you can do there. Will do. And I'm checking Twitter every second too. Okay, thanks. Bye. Yeah. The tip-off was that Golden was not on the Aces and Coaches conference. But, this is it. That especially during the bye week, Mom tries to get out. So she figured he'd come up with some good excuse, but then Matt Porter was saying something about his attitude. Something about somebody brought up this news transport.
What's happening? Nothing. I think a player from UM was transported by helicopter.
Right, trauma from practice, but practice is closed, nobody's there, and you know what you get from official sources with HIPAA laws. Well, we're trying to anywho,
Yeah, but
am I going to my team?
No. Go to search. Type in requisition. You create requisition. No. Go for participation. The problem is it's not that simple.
No, he's not.
Click on this.
So,
Alright. Figure out how
see this?
it might be
That is what's on camera right there.
I can see your people.
Yeah, no, I knew they took him out. He's when he called because he wanted. You can go on there and say, yeah, it wasn't showing up on my thing. Oh, okay.
So it doesn't really matter to me who's covering the volleyball.
I was right. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is he, I don't know what time it is. Is he able to double dip?
He can go over here.
Yeah.
Waiting for me to see that.
You can go there and you can wave and say, hi, Daddy. Look at the camera. That's the camera. Wave and say, hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
And so, since
She looks just like you.
Right. This
This is
is the
Jamel.
finals, all right?
Rebecca.
I think that they're
Jamel is
usually
he is
they
in
have
charge of our
done
social
on
media.
Saturday and then
He also
Sunday.
plays a
But
referee on the
I
show
thought
today.
that's
It's like a
finale
sports
they're
referee.
doing on Saturday.
There's gonna be
okay.
two guys there sitting and talking about something today.
Yeah.
And he's
I
gonna
thought when
whistle.
we
Last
first
time he
talked,
threw a red
someone
flag
said
in
that there was
the
a five on different days. That would be great if
During
it
the
was
show,
only
we have to
just
be
one
quiet,
story.
we can't talk, and we also can't walk up on them.
Okay.
We have to stay back over there. We just have to whisper. We don't have to whisper.
Yeah, we can put a photo of that soon. I know that cellphone.com or some of the speakers hire
That's the green screen. So
just help us Saturday.
people can stand in front of it and they could put anything behind it. They can make you like at Disney World, they can make you standing at school or wherever. And they're actually like but in front of
Instagram
but
has
when you're watching
Yeah, I
it
don't think that has, that's the season skid. I'm not sure.
What?
how-
Twitter's on Instagram has more users than Twitter. Instagram, Twitter, yeah, Twitter's a dime.
well, it won't show on this side, but it'll show on the screen.
Yay, never wasted my time.
But now there's gonna be another platform.
Because this is always green, but if you're watching it on camera, you'll see whatever setting
Yeah. I like
Double
trying
check
to
out mine.
you're not going to use that, so you're just using this.
I went to school.
It's kind of ugly outside.
It's like triple the country. Don't go to school for anything. Their accounts are really fun to follow.
Cool.
So I'm getting ready to do the pre-show, which is
Mine is like
on social media,
Word,
Instagram,
Smile,
kind
Word,
of,
Publix,
no.
Daycare.
So basically, talk to people
Oh, yesterday was pretty cool with those
before the show
fighters.
on.
Where are our hosts? We're 5 minutes away. Maybe 12:30 is.
Yeah, I was gonna read you the email. A University of Miami
Final
football
match is in
student
the woods.
athlete suffered an injury during
Somebody's on
practice
time.
Sunday, not
and
Saturday.
was
One of you.
transported to
Yay.
the hospital for, it's supposed to say precautionary, but it says precautionary.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi. I'm Matt.
Tyler. Stalker knows what's wrong.
Rebecca.
Very nice to meet you.
A University of Miami
How we doing?
Ate a pizza lunch.
Thank you.
during practice
That's cool.
That's payback. Taking it for
and was transported to the hospital for precautionary reasons.
Matt, do you think you guys are gonna talk about Will Davis?
Not unless we get a question about it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't know. I think Omar sent the script before the news
Okay.
that came out, so I didn't know if.
I mean, obviously it's up to him. It's his show.
Yeah. Okay.
I,
Probably not worth.
you know, I mean, we've got enough other stuff to be angry about.
Yeah. Right.
We will,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, I'll.
He might come up, but I don't think it's a big topic.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, question for you.
The answer for you.
Turn these off for a second.
I poured mine. I'm putting my microphone on. And I'm going to let the people know that we are starting momentarily. The better half of this show is a little late.
That's to see details on your face. For people with bad eyesight.
Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. X's and Omar are starting momentarily. Please send us your questions. Use the hashtag XOMAR. Follow me on Twitter at MattLincolnTV. Omar on Twitter at Omar Kelly.
Okay, guys. Well, that was my time. Gonna go ahead and get everything ready for the chat. Gonna jump in the chat with you guys. So once again, go ahead
So
and
we
go
got-
to suncentual.com. Click on the red bar across the top of the phone.
Water my plant.
Live. And we will have more conversation in the chat. Once again, tweet your questions to hashtag Omar.
Yeah, and send us challenges because Jamel needs something to do.
Yeah, send me some challenges. I know you guys can't possibly agree with every single thing that Omar and Matt says, especially Omar, because you guys go back and forth on Twitter all day. So once again, send us your challenges, questions, everything, and we'll see you guys in the chat.
Hello?
No. In case it's just a normal corner of the frame.
It's usually the end, right? The end of time should be here.
Hello. Did I mess up my position in here?
How's Omar on the close? Is he give a pull in his head? Yeah. Omar, is it possible for you to move maybe 4 inches closer to Matt?
4 inches closer to Matt.
Omar, should I get
Thank
B-roll of Will Davis right here?
Yeah, if you, yes. That's a good point, thank you. Will Davis, Jonas Gray, we should probably bring both of those individuals up.
We are dedicating this show to Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. Who do you,
This is Matt and Omar. They're the hosts of the show. They're the ones that are gonna be on TV.
oh yeah, so that's you? I thought you had 2 boys, no.
I had two girls and one boy.
Two people, my son.
Oh, wow.
Omar, where's your mic?
Yeah, right here. I could have sworn I clicked it on, I'm a failure.
No, it is not.
All right, we're ready?
You feel the fan?
Yeah, I'm good.
Loving it.
Yeah.
No offense, Dylan, but the fan is my favorite new addition to the show this year.
Imagine how much Perk likes it. Mr. Sweaty.
All right. Record. Thank you. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
On set.
And welcome to the Week 3 edition of X's and Omar. This is Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. I am CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln. You are angry, frustrated, really just like the Dolphins players are after a head-scratching 23-20 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 2. We're going to take your... Yes.
Why is it so head scratching? Is it just because of the caliber of the opponent? Is it because of how it happened in the fourth quarter?
I think it's all of those things. I think it's the fact that This is not a very good team. I do not believe that the Dolphins just lost to.
Okay.
Not a very good quarterback that the Dolphins just lost to.
Fair.
He was sacked 5 times against the Panthers the week before, 0 times in this game, 0 turnovers forced. Down the stretch, they couldn't get either
Big
scores
plays
they
on the
needed to
secondary.
win. Either side, it was head scratching on a variety of ways.
Do I have to convince you to come off the ledge?
I'm fine. It's just one game, but there are lots of things to be worried about.
I think a lot of Dolphin fans are disappointed by the fact that they thought that this would be a 6-0 stretch, or maybe, if they have a hiccup, a 5-1 stretch. And I think the challenge that we have right now as a South Florida sports fan base is the things that you thought would be your strengths as a team are not your strengths right now. And that means you don't know who you are. You're having an identity crisis.
I think that's true, and I think the scary thing is, what do you think is the strength of this team?
It would have to be the wide receiving core, maybe even the passing game.
Maybe the quarterback.
That is just not encouraging.
No, I mean it kind of is, but it's really not.
It kind of is, but it's not. Yeah, it means you have a just above average quarterback, which means you have maybe if you're lucky, just above average team.
So can you explain to me what happened to this dominant defensive line that looks so good in the preseason and has just 1 sack through 2 games?
I think you've got injuries that you're battling right now on the defensive line. Cameron Wake, Olivier Vernon, Derek Shelby, they're all battling injuries. But that does not excuse the interior play. From what I'm hearing and just talking around, defensive players, the defensive linemen, they want to get upfield. They want to be more aggressive. And that's not my bad.
Is that Kevin Coyle calling you right now,
Listen,
saying, listen, what do we need to do?
It's a situation where the Dolphins have to be more aggressive and have to find a way to get Ndamukong Suh to be not double teamed all the time, but to be more into the running lanes and the running gaps and to be positioned where he can pair with a good pass rusher. And right now, the game of Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh is not working right now. And partly because Cameron Wake is not healthy. Cameron Wake right now has a hamstring injury. It's limited his practice last week. It limited his impact in the game last week to the point where they had to sit him in the second half. And you got to figure out a way to get some sort of pass rush semblance to pair with Wake to make this defensive line more effective. And I also think they need to do a better job disguising the blitz. Right now, you know where it's coming from. It's coming from Koamisi. You got to do something different.
Well, see, even if taking Wake off of this defensive line, it should be better than it is right now. And are you putting that on the defensive coordinator or more on Suh's play? He said last week that his play was poor. He said today it was poor again and unacceptable. But is he being put in the right position to be successful?
I think he is being put in the right position. I mean, I looked at the film, and Wake isn't doing anything different than what he did in Tampa Bay, with the Detroit Lions. I think the supporting cast around him might not be good enough. I think the linebackers might not be good enough. I think the defensive line might not be good enough. I think the play calling and the coaching might not be good enough. I see an impactful player. It doesn't always get shown in the stats. I put on Instagram account a series of 2 plays where Cameron Wake disrupted both plays. He didn't make a tackle.
Or Suh did.
So, yes, Suh disrupted both plays. He didn't make a tackle, but he got in the passing lanes, forced an incompletion, basically was all in the backfield, could have had a tackle, but the linebacker cleaned it up. He's impactful.
Okay.
I would say he gives you 10 impactful plays. They don't always account to stats. But I'm not going to sit here and say that he's playing well at the level but that he should be, because there's no way that you're going to match a $114 million price tag. He was never going to play at that level. But Dolphin fans should expect more, not just from him, but from the entire defensive line.
All right, let's take our first Twitter question. It comes from Josh at XXJonesy87. What needs to happen to keep us from starting so slow in games? Another thing that has been a huge struggle for this team, both the Redskins and the Jaguars scoring on their first touch of the game.
And statistically, Joe Philbin during his 4-year run has been one of the lowest scoring first quarter teams in the NFL. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that if he does win the toss, he defers. Now, the Dolphins are, going back to last year, the highest scoring third quarter team in the NFL. So he likes the opportunity to score in the third quarter. Now, what do they need to do to probably be more effective when they do get their first series? Well, one, it starts with the defense. They takes them forever to get warmed up. And this isn't a Joe Philbin thing, because this predated Joe Philbin to Tony Sperano. It takes them a while to figure out what opponents are doing to them and to adjust and to get them to basically get off the field. The first drive is usually one of the worst drives for the Dolphins defense. But maybe on the opposite side, on the offense, maybe you need to throw the ball and do shotgun and hurry up. I'm not a big fan of going to that hurry-up offense immediately, but maybe you need to do that to loosen teams up. Dolphins always begin the game trying to establish the run, then realize they can't run, abandon it.
Right.
And I'm not sure that that's the right approach. I think right now you got to begin the game. Maybe you try something different, and instead of deferring taking the ball in the third quarter, you actually say, hey, let me get the ball and see what I can do on offense. Then from a defensive standpoint, maybe you need to be more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to our next Twitter question. You sort of just addressed it. Gianmarco Santiago asks, why is it that the offense doesn't consistently go up-tempo? It seems to work when they do. So why not go up-tempo more often?
It's a finesse style, and I recently wrote a column in the Sentinel that the Dolphins just desire to be such a shotgun, up-tempo, finesse offense. It handcuffs your running game. And you need to be more balanced to be more successful. And when you're balanced, the play action works a lot better. Right now, the Dolphins have no play action because they've got no running game. So every team knows that they're going to pass. I'm not sure that the up-tempo style is the right approach for this team. While I do know that it puts up yards, does it result in wins? Mm-hmm. And I do believe that a 100-yard rushing offense is going to produce you victories, not this we want yards, we want fantasy points. That's the problem with you people. That is the problem with you people. You're so obsessed with your fantasy points and your fantasy numbers and your fantasy stats and your fantasy yards that you don't care about winning. All you care about is yards, pretty points. And that doesn't win football games.
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing that matters the most in fantasy football is scoring touchdowns.
Yes.
And the Dolphins need to do more of that.
They got better in the red zone this week. The question is, will they get better running the ball?
Well, let's move on and talk a little bit more about that. Dolphins averaging a dismal 3.4 yards per attempt. Lamar Miller averaging 2.9 yards per carry. Personally, I think that this defensive line, we said it was the strength the whole season. Mm-hmm. A whole off season.
We lied to the people.
It's still.
We
no,
lied
I
to
think
the
it
people.
still is.
We
They're
lied.
going to figure this out.
We lied.
The bigger issue, though,
they were
is
beating
that,
up a bad offensive line.
Well, this offensive line, we were worried about how it would be, and now it's worse than what we thought it was.
Yes.
Where's the optimism that it could get better?
I don't have any.
Okay. There we go.
Listen,
all right.
We've got the same issues and same problems that we've had going back to last year. Dallas Thomas is a problem. and
where have you, deja vu. Deja vu.
Yeah, where have you heard this before? There are instances in the game where his play, and we're talking critical downs.
Very important.
We're talking a very important downs.
On like the 2-yard line.
Yeah, goal line, red zone, 3rd and 2, 3rd down.
Back at your own 2.
Back at, that was Jason Fox.
Okay,
that was at
all
the
right.
7. You've got to do something with that interior of that offensive line. It's not good. Not sure it's going to get good. I don't know if Billy Turner should or could unseat Dallas Thomas. One, you'd have to move Jameer Douglas to left guard, which is his natural position. Mm-hmm. Probably play Billy, who might give you an upgrade in the run blocking game, but a downgrade in the pass blocking game. And truthfully speaking, Dallas Thomas outperformed Billy Turner.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that you have is when we get to the games, and Dallas Thomas is playing in the games, while he might be fine for 50 of the 55 snaps, there will be 5 snaps, and I've said this going back to last season. Last week it was 4. The Washington game it was 4. We're back to 5 now. There will be 5 snaps where he is a disaster.
Right.
And those 5 plays come at the most inopportune times that destroy first downs, destroy 3rd down conversions, destroy red zone opportunities. And you got to figure something out. Dolphins, they can't look, especially going into this game against Buffalo. It will probably be a rude awakening.
Yeah.
And
they've already had one. They just had one. That was a rude awakening against the Jaguars.
I don't know. I think it could get worse.
Okay.
Scary to say that, but I think it can get worse.
Okay.
Buffalo. Buffalo before we get this challenge, Buffalo is the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah.
Maybe the Jets are the second best, and they're both in your division.
And then we play them in the next 2 weeks. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
What we got?
So you said that the Dolphins are pretty much a finesse team.
Yes.
So Jay Dad says finesse, power, not so much. It's about execution. The team is not executing, especially up front. A solid OL equals different perception.
A solid offensive line equals a different perception? Maybe. If you can, here's why I say they're a finesse team. Why are you trying to convert a 3rd and 1 running out of the shotgun? Like, can't you, 3rd and 1, okay, at least put your QB back there. QB sneak.
Tannehill's a big guy. He's a big, strong guy.
I don't know about that.
He's a big guy.
I don't know about that. He's not a big quarterback. Cam Newton is a big quarterback. Yeah. And, you know, that's why I'm glad Jonas Gray was signed today to the active roster. We got 2 transactions. Will Davis was traded to the Baltimore Ravens for a 7th-round pick. I'm not a huge fan of that trade just from the standpoint I know Will has talent, and this could be a situation where 2 years from now we look back and be like, damn, why did we trade Will Davis for a 7th-round pick again? But
Vontae Davis much?
Yeah, Vontae Davis, there's a ton of those. I understand why they traded Will. Will is not a physical player, and this team likes physical cornerbacks. Will can't help you on special teams. Zach Bowman and Bobby McCain are helping you more on special teams. But Will Davis, Tony Lippett, Will Davis, Tony Lippett. No offense to Tony Lippett, but I'm taking Will Davis. Now, but what his trade does do is it opens the door for Jonas Gray, who is a physical running back, who is a hard yardage, I formation, line it up, let me get you those 3 yards back to get into this offense. I'm not, Lamar Miller, while he was a 1,000-yard runner, we know he struggles getting those hard yards.
Yes, he does.
Damian Williams, I like a lot of things he does, pass blocking, pass catching. He's a decent 3rd down back. He's not getting you a 3rd and 1. And, you know, that is your only running back. Those are your only options. So I'm glad that they promoted Jonas Gray. Hopefully what he did in New England, he can bring here to the Dolphins.
Well, let's Shay Marks asked our next Twitter question. Do you think running the ball more would help the Dolphins' O be more effective? I think the obvious answer is yes, but do they need to come out on Sunday and say, we must establish the run?
Not against this opponent.
Okay.
You've got 3 Pro Bowl caliber players, or maybe 4 on this defensive line. Mario Williams, Marcel Darius, Kyle Williams, Jerry Hughes. Like, you really, you know, I think you need to do a lot of 3- and 5-step drop. I think I would open up the game with a hurry up, try to neutralize the pass rushing. It does not help you trying to run against the best defensive line in the NFL without your best blocking tailback in Deion Sims. He's got that concussion. He's got to pass concussion protocol. We're not sure if he's going to practice today. If he practices today, it's a good sign. Then you got Jordan Cameron out with the growing issue.
Yeah. Jake
Jake Stonebrenner on a line that's going to face Mario Williams and the boys. I'm not liking my chances. Throw.
The interesting thing about this game is there's a lot of former Dolphins on the Bills now.
Yes.
And one of them is obviously Richie
Richie Incognito.
Your boy. We are now well over a year since Bully Gates. With perspective, now let's looking back on it. What do we take? What's the biggest takeaway from Incognito and Jonathan Martin?
I've said this consistently going back to last year. Jonathan Martin didn't want to play football. That was very obvious to me from his rookie season. The mental challenge and toll. It's not easy to be in the NFL.
No, it's not.
It's not easy to survive in the NFL. Like, for instance, I'll give you a perfect example. Chris McCain is going through a lot, trying to get to the point where he goes from starter to being basically on the fringe on the bubble to actually practicing really hard, making it to the active. And it is a mental challenge and a mental journey. Jonathan Martin struggled his entire NFL career, and he was not mentally capable and prepared to handle that. Now, flip it to Richie Incognito. Richie Incognito was the one guy.
The one guy.
The one guy who cared about Jonathan Martin to pull him out of his house, to pull him out of his depression, to make him come hang out with the guys, to make him feel like he was part of the team. He incorporated Jonathan. He always brought him out of the funk. Now, unfortunately for Richie grew up in an abusive environment,
Yeah.
and that's how Richie shows love, through abuse, through brutality, through bullying tactics, through tough guy stuff. I'm gonna, beat you up. You're my buddy. My job is to beat you up. Unfortunately, Jonathan wasn't prepared to handle that.
Yeah.
And really, he used Richie as an excuse to quit football.
I think the rest of the pressure wound up getting to him, and it was turning that relationship
Yes.
sort of sour. And like you said, kind of an excuse.
It was an excuse. He didn't want to play football anymore.
Right.
And he used Richie as an outlet and avenue. He created a hostile working environment for me. No, your working environment is just hostile in general.
Mm-hmm. So, just a quick point. Did the Dolphins do Richie wrong?
No, they didn't do Richie wrong. Richie made his mistakes. Richie made the bed and he laid in it. He served a 1-year banishment from the NFL. He could have signed, but everybody blackballed him. But now he's back in the NFL, and he's a pretty good guard, and you're going to get to see it. Richie was never going to survive past the Miami Dolphins at the end of that season. They were going to get rid of him just because he wasn't a Joe Philbin type of guy. Now, unfortunately, Joe Philbin guys lead to a finesse team.
Moving on, let's talk about another former Dolphin who's now playing for the Bills, Charles Clay.
Yes.
The Bills signed him to a pretty big deal for a tight end.
Big. It was ridiculous.
Is there-
substantial? 5 years, $38 million.
I don't believe there's any regret on the Dolphins side that Clay's not around anymore, right?
Clay got drastically overpaid. He's a talented player. I'm a huge Charles Clay fan, but I would have paid Charles Clay maybe half of that. And now that doesn't mean that he's not going to be impactful. That doesn't mean that he might not put together a Pro Bowl season. That does not mean that he won't come into Sun Life Stadium and absolutely roast the Dolphins. Because you saw what Jared Odrick did last week. He put his foot in you know what. And that's what a lot of Dolphins players like to do when they come back here. It's like you're breaking up with your ex, and you want to show them that you're doing good without them.
Right.
And that's the situation that Charles Clay's going to have. That's the situation that Richie Incognito's going to have.
Dan
And
Carpenter.
Dan Carpenter still. How many times has Dan Carpenter beaten you already? It's probably like 2 since he's left here. So it's a situation where you're just going to have to survive the storm.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about how the Bills have the best defensive line in the NFL. Andy Romero has tweeted in this question, do you see any flaws in the Buffalo Bills defense that the Finns can't exploit?
Linebacker play, especially linebacker coverage of tight ends. Unfortunately, your linebacker, your tight end situation isn't very good. Jordan Cameron's got the groin. Deion Sims is sidelined with a concussion. You got Jake Stonebrenner, who did score a touchdown. Congratulations, Jake. Clap it up for you. Practice squad guy who made it to the 53, got called up, scored a touchdown in his first game. Huge accomplishment.
The only smile I saw in the post-game locker room after that.
He's proving that he's an NFL player, and I always liked him on the practice squad. I'm glad he's still around. I'm glad he's getting this opportunity. But let's not pretend like he's not a good he's a good inline blocker.
Right.
Like, let's calm down here. This guy kind of played wide receiver at Ohio State. It would be ideal to exploit the linebackers with the tight ends. Unfortunately, we don't know if Dolphins have any tight ends.
Right. That's brutal. All right, let's take our next Twitter question from A. Cooney39. Should the Dolphins' offensive line follow the Washington cut blocking scheme this week versus the Bills?
Yes, that would be a good approach. In fact, John Benton, the offensive line coach, he comes from Houston. They're a cut blocking team. I think it helps neutralize the speed and the aggressiveness of the defensive line. As you saw, it worked against the Dolphins against Washington. They practice it, and the Dolphins cut at times, but it's minimal cuts. I would say go out there and start cutting the crap out of Houston and take them from being an aggressive upfield, pin our ears back and hunt team and make them a little bit more tentative. I would be shooting for the knees. I hate cut blocking, but while it's legal, you might as well do it.
All right, we are going to find out a lot more about who winds up practicing today in terms of health issues. We talked about Cameron being hurt. Who should the Dolphins be worried about not playing this weekend? Is Rashad Jones going to play?
Yeah, Rashad Jones going to play, and he's having an amazing season. We both talked about it, how he has the potential to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. Right now, he's one of the leaders in tackles in the NFL. You see a lot of the plays that he makes are impactful. I think he's going to play. Cameron Wake is the one guy that I'm a little bit worried about, because when you watch the film, one, because of age and because of his struggles lately setting the edge, I'm not sure that Cameron Wake is an every down defensive end. Now you add on top of it health, hamstring, playing at 75%. Kevin Coyle talked about the fact that he wasn't practicing probably led to him not looking like himself. It doesn't look like this is going to end well. Hopefully Cameron Wake can eat his spinach because he doesn't eat, unhealthy
Right.
food and get his Popeye back on. But the Cameron Wake that I know, that I've covered since 2009, is not here anymore.
All right, let's take another live question. A-List Fanatic asks, can Jonas Gray be the guy that helps the team Sunday and gets the run game going?
Yes, I don't need him to help and pound the rock. What I need him to do is help on 3rd and 2, getting those short yardage plays. Somehow, some way, maybe an unbalanced line, the Dolphins have to figure out a way to get the hard yards. And when you are passing the ball on 3rd and short, when you are trying to run out of shotgun on 3rd and short, you are a finesse team. Don't deny it. Own up to it. Get some I formation into your game plan.
One more injury question. Brandon Albert's got a whole host of things going on right now.
Finger, rehab from the knee, left
hamstring. Was there a hamstring
and
thing?
now hamstring on the left
On the
side.
left side.
Yes.
Is he going to play, and is he going to be effective? Can he be effective?
I think he's going to play.
Yeah.
Primarily because Brandon has worked very hard to get to this point. The question you asked, effective?
Yeah.
Better than Jason Fox, maybe.
75% of Brandon Albert's better than 100%.
Yeah,
Jason
but
Fox.
we're not at 75% anymore. Now with the hamstring injury, he's walking around. He looks fine. He doesn't have to move that much as an offensive lineman. But let's not pretend like it's not going to impact him.
At JR Babs 2 asks, would you consider next week versus the Bills a must-win to keep pace in the AFC East?
Certainly to keep pace in the AFC East, just because it looks like the Patriots are probably running away with it. You gotta like what you see from the Jets.
2 games. It's only two.
It's only 2 games, but the Jets are taking care of business. Beating Indianapolis, now Indianapolis, the sky is falling in Indy, but they dominated.
Yeah, they looked really good.
They looked really good. That defensive line looks really good. I've always been a fan of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a game manager. He can get you, take care. He can get Brian March to his 100 yards. I think the Jets are going to be good. I think the Bills are definitely good, and you know who the Patriots are.
Right.
Right now, you better win this game if you don't want to be the bottom dweller in the AFC East.
All right, before we get to our predictions, let's ask a question that I can't believe it's week 3 and it's already here, but let's talk about it. Anthony at ABUFF66. Will Steve Ross fire Joe Philbin during the season? If not, why?
Steve Ross believes in continuity. He believes in sending the right message to not just the organization and South Florida, but also to prospective employers. The things that he did to Tony Sperano put a bad taste in other employers' mouths to the point where you landed Joe Philbin. Not to say that Jeff Fisher would have been better, but you landed Joe Philbin. And he's all about doing what is best for the organization. Now, if we're into week 8, 9, 10, and this is a 2-8 team, clearly it would be appropriate to maybe hand the reins to Bill Lazor.
Right.
And notice I said Bill Lazor, not Kevin Coyle.
Right.
Or maybe Darren Rizzi. Clearly a change will be needed, but I don't think that Steve Ross is ready or willing to pull the plug mid-season just because he was the man who decided to hire Joe Philbin over Mike McCoy. He was the one who said, this is my guy, and he's going to give him every chance to be successful. That's what this offseason was about. Now it'll be interesting to see how long he stays with that commitment.
Quick, prediction time. What's happening?
I'm going to predict a Dolphins 21-13 win.
Okay.
I think that this is a desperate team. I think that these are desperate coaches. They know their issues. The question is, can they address them? Tyrod Taylor is a very dangerous quarterback, 8th highest rated quarterback in the NFL, not because of he's good on every play, but he's good at producing the big play. I think the Dolphins figure out a way to tighten up those big plays and force Tyrod Taylor to be a quarterback from the pocket. And I believe that this is the week that you're going to see big games from Jarvis Landry, Rashard Matthews, and also Kenny Stills. So I think they're going to have a good passing attack this week.
23-20, I'm taking the Dolphins as well. I'll
Oh.
tell you, I don't feel great about it, though. But we'll see what happens with the
Rex
home
Ryan
opener.
has always found a way to get the best of Miami in Sun Life Stadium.
Well, he's found a way to beat the Patriots a lot, too, and they weren't able to do that last weekend. That's going to do it for X's and Omar. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag XOMar all week.